Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever and whenever you are. My name is Benjamin and welcome to another GameMaker tutorial. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to do GameMaker's pathfinding so that you can have enemy objects navigate a maze. So the first thing we're going to need to do is create two sprites. So I'm just going to hit the sprite button twice to create two new sprites. We'll call one sprite enemy. And I'm going to make this just 32 by 32 pixels, and it's going to be red because that's a generic enemy color. And then we're going to center this sprite as well. And I just realized I probably should turn my phone down just in case someone tries to call me during the stream or video. Okay, so now we're going to have our another one be sprite wall or solid, whatever you want to call it. And 32 by 32, and I'm just going to make it this gray color because that looks good. And that one we're not going to center. Now we're going to create three objects. One of them is going to be called object wall. The other one's going to be called object enemy, and the last one's going to be called object grid. So the grid doesn't need a sprite, but the enemy and the wall are both going to have sprites. Okay? Now, the wall doesn't need to have any programming at all. Good thing I muted my phone, or it would have been going off. It's still going off. But we do want to set it up in the room. So let's create a new room. Click the new room button. I'm just going to do 640 by 360. I'm just going to call it room test. And I'm going to give it a background color of black because I'll just make it easier for you guys to see. And let's zoom in here. Let's grab some wall objects, and we're going to build a maze. And you can build this maze as complicated as you would like. Now, I'm not going to go into all of the details about GameMaker's pathfinding, but I do want to talk a little bit about pathfinding in general. Now, GameMaker uses I'm pretty sure GameMaker uses the A-star algorithm, at least last I checked, used the A-star algorithm, which is a pathfinding algorithm that uses a grid, and it can use that grid to navigate a level like this. There's a lot we can do here. Let's make it, I'm trying to make it more complicated, but I'm not very good at making mazes apparently. So I don't know, that's pretty complicated, right? Can move this up maybe right there and then have it come around here. Something like that. Whatever, that's good enough. So it will use that grid, the grid that it's given, to create some sort of a path that will move along, and it actually creates, in GameMaker, it creates a path. You can see there's a path resource, but we don't actually need to use that. So we've got our level set up. Let's throw our enemy in, and we'll also want to put the object wall in. Not the wall, the grid. Okay, now we're going to want to make the grid go into your room instance order. And see the grid instance right here? We're going to want to move that all the way to the top so it's created very first. Okay? So the grid instance that we put in will be the first one created. Now what we're going to do is we're going to open up the grid object and we're going to start programming. So let me pull up my code here. And we're just going to give it a create event. This is where we're going to set up the grid that will be used for pathfinding. So create and we'll call this create the grid. So our grid, the cell width and cell height are 32 by 32 because that's what we've done. So cell width equals 32, cell height equals 32. I'm just creating these so that, in fact, they can be local variables, so that we have a reference to those numbers. We can change them later if we need to. So we're going to do how many horizontal cells are there going to be in the room? Well, there's going to be horizontal cells is going to be the room width divided by the cell width, right? That will give us how many horizontal cells are in the room. Now, var vertical cells is going to be the room height divided by the cell height. Actually, we might need to use the div operator because that will take away all remainders. So if we use div instead of divide, it won't give us it'll give us a whole number basically. So let's do that. Then we need to create our grid. So I'm going to call it global.grid. This way all enemy objects can use the same grid. The problem a lot of people have is they create multiple grids and it starts to lag because every single enemy object has their own grid. So we're creating a global grid that all the enemy objects can use to navigate the maze. And it's going to be, this is how you create it. This is the function that you need to know. mp grid create. And the first variable you pass in is where it should start, so 0 and 0, so it's going to start at the very top left corner of our room. And then we need how many horizontal cells there are, so H cells and V cells. We already calculated those above. Then we need the cell width, which is cell width, and the cell height, and that's it. We've created the grid. Only I must have a mistake somewhere. Left V cells. Oh, I forgot my equals sign. Okay, that makes sense. Now we need to add the walls to this grid. So you create a grid and then you add all of the objects that are going to affect the pathfinding, the objects that we need to avoid. So add the walls. We're going to do mp grid add instances global.grid object wall and false. Precise is just the easiest way to explain precise is to use the help document. So here's the difference between not precise and precise. Okay, it doesn't actually matter in our case, but if you were to have an object like this, precise would make sure that it only does the plus sign of this object and fills those elements in as not elements you can't walk on or cells you can't walk on. But if you don't do precise, then it's going to use the whole image and make a big square like that. That's the best way to explain it. So, but we don't need it. False is fine. We love false. And you're done. So you need to make sure and destroy it. So we're going to add a game end event as well. It's an other game end. Drag over a sprite. Not a sprite. A code action. Destroy the grid. And mp grid destroy global.grid. There we go. Destroy the grid. Sweet. So we've created the grid. Now we just need to teach our enemy object how to navigate it. So there's a couple things we need to do. Open up the object enemy and we're going to have a create event, add event, create event, and go to your controls, drag over a code action. Let's see. And we're going to create the path. So we can create a path in code using code. We don't need to do it. We don't need to actually create a path resource. So path equals path add, and that creates a new path. Don't ask me why it's add instead of create. Now we're going to need that's not even there. Okay, we're going to need to do some math. Let's do a global left pressed. So we're going to use the mouse key to tell the enemy where to move to, but instead of using the mouse's coordinates, you could have the player's coordinates, and the enemy could chase after the player. You'd need to have your path creation, or you need to update your path and maybe a step event. Maybe not a step event, maybe with an alarm so it doesn't update every single step. But yeah, we're going to do this in a global left press, and we'll just make the enemy move to where the mouse clicked. Doesn't really feel like an enemy if it's moving where the mouse clicked, but create the path and move to the mouse. That's good. I need to move this over so my face isn't in the way. And we're going to do var mouse x equals var mouse y equals, and then we just want to make sure there's a path. So if mp grid path, so this not only makes sure that there is a path to that point, but it also turns whatever path variable we pass into it into the correct path. So we can do this in an if statement. Global.grid is the grid that we're going to use to create the path. Then we pass in the path. Then we pass in the X starting position, which is going to be the starting position of the enemy. Then we pass in where we want to go to, which is going to be the mouse X and mouse Y. And then finally, if we allow diagonals, and we're going to say yes, we do allow diagonals. And that should work, I think. Okay, now we just need to start the path. So path start. So this is a function that starts a path. We pass in our path, pass in the speed, which is 4, path action stop. This is what we want it to do at the end of the path. So we want the enemy to stop moving. And whether it's absolute, we want this to be false. Want it to be false. Yeah. Okay, let's calculate the mouse X and mouse Y. We have to pass in the mouse X and the mouse Y position as if they're elements in the grid. So we're going to do mouse X div 32 times 32. So what does that do? It just makes it so it snaps to the very left corner of the thing, so that it's trying to move to that exact. It's going to be so it moves to the center of that tile, basically. So once we do that, we add 16 because our tiles are 32 wide. So we're going to find the very corner, then we're going to add 16. That's going to give us the center. So mouse Y div 32 times 32 plus 16. There we go. Now let's test our game. Let's run it, see if things are working out correctly. They should be. Let's find out. So we've got our enemy there. We can click on a tile and the enemy will move no matter. I can click clear over here. Look how smart our enemy is. Holy cow. What a smart enemy. He moves all the way, navigates this entire maze. We could move him down here instead, actually, and then tell him to move all the way back here, and he will be smart enough to navigate this maze, which is cool. GameMaker, I'm pretty sure it uses the A-star algorithm, and it's just really neat to see how this works inside of a game. No matter where you click in this maze, the enemy is going to know how to get there. And so it's nice that GameMaker simplifies this for you so you don't have to program that entire algorithm. Just as a recap, all we did is we created a grid. right? That has some sort of a size and cell size. Then we added instances to that grid, which were the wall objects. After we added those instances, we came into our enemy and we said, we gave it a path, we created a path. And then we said, when you press the left mouse button, use that path, or use that grid, I should say, to create a path. That's what this does. And then we just started the path because we said, okay, let's run that path and start moving on that path. And that's how it works. You're done. You've got smart enemy pathfinding. So hopefully this video helped you guys. If you've never messed around with that before, I try to simplify it as much as possible so it'd be easy to understand. And you guys can use this in your games to make smarter enemies. I had a request to do it with platforming. Now, it is possible to use this for platforming pathfinding, but it gets kind of tricky. In fact, I think you have to write the A-star algorithm basically yourself and have your own custom nodes. So it gets a little tricky. I don't know if I'm going to be doing that anytime soon. I do want to do it eventually, but I will be doing a video on basic platformer artificial intelligence where they'll chase after you and try and jump gaps and stuff like that. So keep an eye out for that. But thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. I just recently, just barely today, uploaded a trailer for my Udemy course. So go to my videos and go watch that trailer. In fact, I'll put a link in this video so that you guys can see it. It'll be over here maybe somewhere. I'm not sure which side it's going to be on. But I'll put a link in the video so you guys can check that out. And I'm excited for that Udemy course. But I'll continue to upload videos for free here on YouTube, always, forever. So I really appreciate you guys' support. You're what make it possible for me to even do this, because if it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be able to do this. So I appreciate that. Be sure and like and favorite this video. If you haven't already subscribed, then I would really appreciate it if you subscribed. Also, link in the description. Check out my Twitch channel. I'm streaming Grain War development almost every single day. I'm going to start again Friday. I do Monday through Friday. It usually starts at 8 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time, MDT. Pretty sure is my time zone. So 8 p.m. That's when I start. Check it out. Thank you guys again, and I will talk to you guys later.